Hey boys, so want to make a video about a lot of political stuff is going on where an obsession with identity, an obsession with on the right and the left, but mostly on the left. I'm going to talk a lot about what's going on the left and kind of the psychology of why we are with this weird cultural shift that we're going through right now, and we're in this weird kind of, I guess, transitory state. I don't really know what it is, but just things have very much shifted over the past few years, over the past 10 years, at least in me, with my political positions, my beliefs about the world I live in. And the last video I made was about or not the last video, but one of the videos I made, one of the last two videos I made was, I know this video will get me canceled because you're not allowed to speak your mind. And you're not allowed to think for yourself. That's what the mob of wokeness wants. They do not want people who think for themselves. They don't want you to speak your mind. And speaking your mind can literally get you removed off a platform. If that doesn't sound dystopian, I don't know what doesn't sound dystopian. I can't explain it. If that is not dystopian, that is the most dystopian thing. That sounds extremely dystopian to me. Like the fact that the media and everything has been shifting towards, in my opinion, in America and in the West in general, towards authoritative, autocratic, dictatorship way of thinking. Both sides have really, I think, have a tendency to go to this. I think if you go too far to the right, it becomes you become Nazis, you become like racist motherfuckers who just murder people based on, but at the same time, if you go too far to the left, you get what's going on now. You get, we need, I think Elon Musk put it best, where it's like the best place is when we're kind of like, both sides are kind of unhappy, like they're not getting totally what they want. Because you go far to the right, exactly, you definitely get some messed up stuff. There is some things right, but politics has shifted so much to the left. Like it has become so, like the people who believe these things, like everybody is so obsessed with victimhood. Everybody's a victim. And I feel like that's why I want to mention the red pill. It isn't that the red pill is wrong. I want you to understand that it's not about really, I want to explain deeper what I was talking about in that video. Like when I mean stop believing this stuff, it isn't necessarily stop believing in red pill. It doesn't mean like you need to like pretend and go back to the blue pill and start simping for women and be a nice guy. No, that is obviously not the right way. I'm not perfect. Guys, I'm not some alpha male. I'm making this self-improvement channel for me. It's not about, I don't really care about other people's journeys. I want to help them and I'm going to give you tips, but I'm kind of like documenting this for me. This is more for me. I'm not really that concerned. I love to help people with my tips because there's a lot of stuff I know and a lot of stuff that I've done that I've accomplished, but I'm on my own journey and I'm not here to like make you go on my journey and do exactly what I do, because that would be unfair. And another reason is like, you're on your journey. Whoever's watching this, you're on your own life journey, and you got to make those decisions for yourself ultimately. Anyway, like videos, they're gonna influence you, and at the end of the day, it's also for entertainment. So, that being said, I think the thing is we gotta, like, and men and women, we need to abandon this victim bullshit. Feminism. The reason I don't like feminism, and like the reason I don't like the black pill and red pill is because both sides of this, they really they have this victim mentality where it's like you can't disagree with people because they're going to get all defensive and say, well, you're in this position, so you wouldn't know, no, and vice versa. I'm sure the same thing happens for women. I'm sure there's the red pill, black pill thinking that's feminism, but the thing is, the reality is, guys, a lot of this is a coping mechanism. A lot of these movements they're very good coping mechanisms. I mean, it feels good when you're realizing about female nature. Man, okay, women are this way, and that makes sense. Now I understand. It's like, no, you don't. You're not their gender. You don't have a vagina. Like, you don't know what's going on in their brain. Like, they have an emotional mind. They have a completely different, non-logical mind. So they are not going to think different. They're not going to, like, what we understand about them is still going to be 100 times different, really, than what's really going on. You know what I mean? They're more emotional, so they're going to respond more to emotions. Where men, we are logical, we are very logical, and I tend to be very logical. I'm an intellectual myself. I've always been intellectual. I've always been logical and always been like laser focused on logical thinking. But it's gotten to a point where that logical thinking can get in the way of things, and it can mess up things. And it's not always logical thinking. Doesn't mean just because we're logical doesn't mean we aren't emotional. It's because we humans, I think, are a mixture of both. And I think women do have logical thinking. That being said, I don't think women can't think logically, because I would be wrong. Women do have some levels of logic. It's just not as much as men. You know what I mean? And vice versa. Men have emotional states, just not as much as our logical state. It's two opposites. And that's why we're supposed to go, the yin and yang, masculine energy. And, the masculine energy, really, for some people, there's no one having an issue. You know what I mean? This is when you're in a world where you're rejected, if you feel rejected for your looks or something that you can't change, it is frustrating. For instance, for me, I'm a shorter guy. It's not easy for me. It's not easy for me to go into a place and feel 100% confident when I'm around a bunch of people that are like twice my height. I know that people wouldn't understand that, and it sounds kind of like a cowardly way of looking at it, but it's like, dude, I've been to like so many experiences where I've been around people and I just felt I'd rather be alone, like literally just alone, like with no one around, and I wouldn't feel lonely, honestly, than being in a room of people who don't acknowledge my presence. So it's like I'm literally alone, except it's even worse. I'm alone and people are literally looking at me, and I'm like trying to go. For me, it is a little bit, that is not a fun feeling. It is a really awful feeling. And the more I cannot experience that, I feel better. It's you know what I mean? Like in terms of social situations, I have really bad social anxiety. I'll admit to you guys, I'm not perfect, and I'm not some high school JT. I'm a freaking fan of a lot of these self-improvement guys. And I have a lot of respect for them. But some of the content, the problem with YouTube is I feel like I'm watching YouTube sometimes, and I'm not I'm not really like gaining relationships with people. And I really think that that's the thing that we're really struggling with, guys, is if we lived in a world where we had more relationships with people, if there was we live in this isolated world, like because of technology. And I honestly don't believe that the pandemic was responsible for this. The pandemic made us realize how isolated we really are. We've been isolated for a long time, a lot longer than before the pandemic, like a lot longer than when COVID started. I just wish people would understand that. Like, I've been in an isolated state for a very, very long time, and I've been around people, and I literally enjoyed the pandemic. That's how isolated I was. I literally was so focused on defeating my addiction. I had time to work out. I loved the pandemic, to be honest. It was like a 3-year vacation, and like I never really was feeling all this negativity like people feel. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I felt so alone, and all this depression and suicide. It's like, dude, this is nothing new. I just don't understand why people in the pandemic, like suicide rates, mental depression, all this went up during the pandemic. It's like, no, nothing changed. This is exactly what's been happening for years. It's been going on, I would say, since as long as I can remember, man. Ever since I turned 14, I felt very isolated. I've tried going to therapy for this. I've tried different things to deal with it. Honestly, the feeling of isolation I feel is sometimes worse when I'm around groups of people, specifically coworkers. I couldn't even be in a room with these people. I like last night I was going to a meetup thing, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I bailed out. I didn't want to go in. I walked up to the door and I saw the group of people, and because I've been to places like that and I've gone to bars, I've had so many experiences where I've just been felt socially isolated or rejected, standing in these loud places where I can't talk to anyone. It's just this awful feeling, and I feel it's horrible. I do not enjoy it, and I become very resentful, and I go into this state of I really just start to hate people. So group settings kind of bother me. I don't do well in large group settings. I just don't. It's just not easy for me in terms of that. I'm not actually an introvert. That's the weird thing. I've just had so many bad habits that made me introverted. So I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I'm really trying to understand myself here. And the reason I'm making this video is more for me to understand, kind of telling myself this picture. But guys, we just got to stop being victims. The whole thing about it is like feminism, racism, all this stuff. It's all about playing the victim. You can now this stuff exists. I'm not here to say that racism and all these prejudices don't exist. They do. They're not great. I don't like them. I don't like racism. I don't like anti-Semitism or whatever ism. But here's the thing. You're never going to escape. We're never going to really we have to overcome this. We have to start saying that, okay, this thing happened in the past. It wasn't nice. Let's not treat each other that way. And that should be it. It shouldn't be, oh my God, we got to make a movement. Now we got to like bash those people because years ago that guy's family had slaves and so they must be racist, even though these people probably have no idea their family history. Even though these people, maybe they're white, maybe they're, it's ridiculous. It's an absolute ridiculous thing, the thing that is going on with the identity thing. It's like, dude, move on. Let's move on. We're all human. There's only one race, the human race. If that's really what you think, if that's really what you believe, you'll stop going on and on this tirade. Well, this guy did this 20 years ago, and men do this thing, and women do this thing, like for the red pill guys. Who cares? What about what you're doing? How about instead of blaming others, like everybody tends to do that. I do it too. We all do it. Can we acknowledge that we all do that? We all tend to blame each other. We all tend to experience this level of resentment, and we get kind of a high off of it. We have to admit, it feels good to like the other day I was bashing this guy in the comments on a video, and it felt good. It felt good, but it's not a higher sense of being. It's not a high vibration. It's a lower vibration, and it's very easy to go into low vibration, to be negative. It's very easy to fall into that. So that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it made sense. I'm not really sure. I'm not trying to bash anyone. I'm just trying to say that we need to just think beyond this. We need to think, oh, maybe we're not so different. Maybe we need to see that, try to realize that we don't have to be divided, but behind all these arbitrary identities. He, him, her, whatever. It's no one cares about your pronouns, bro. No one cares if you're gay. No one cares. I don't give a shit if you're gay. I have no ill will against any trait of yours that you can't change. I have nothing against anybody of any of the races. I have peace with the fact that I don't care what other people think about me. But so many people just want to have this resentful mentality all the time. It's just about, well, this guy did this and this. Just stop. Just move on. Stop. Focus on yourself. What can you do to fix your life? What can you do to respond to these circumstances? You're never going to be able to change it. So that's, I think, a more mature kind of good way to look at things. And I think that's why, but people don't want to think this way. This is so hated. And I don't understand. It's it's because I feel like there's a complex to it. There's economics to it. There's money to be made for this way of politics. But is this really, we need to look at it, guys, and say, is this helping us? Feeling resentful and hateful towards the other gender, for instance, both men and women. Are these movements really good for us? Is the red pill MGTOW movement really helping you? Do you really feel satisfied? Do you feel like you can go out and talk to women? And I just felt like all of these like things have messed me up. You know, it's like all these things have screwed me up because I couldn't even go into a room with people because I was so worried. Honestly, I was thinking, oh man, all this political stuff's gonna come up, all this liberal nonsense is gonna start coming out, and they're gonna start saying, oh, female, you know, just I just know how people are nowadays, and it's just like I don't want to talk about this stuff, but my mind is just so. I'm just kind of like I kind of realize that I'm overstimulated. I need to like probably do a dopamine detox. I'm on day 204 of NoFap, so I'm doing better on there, and I'm very like on top of my self improvement. But God, man, it's just sometimes you just like you have to take a step back and realize, wonder what am I doing that's making me afraid to go into a room with people, if that makes sense. Anyway, guys, peace out.